I tried to change my family's life with my success, but why did my breakthrough come only after everyone gave up on me? I spent 15 years trying to be the hero who would drag my family out of the mud, but the universe waited until I was completely alone and broken before it finally handed me the keys to the kingdom. I'm Julian, 36, and I've realized that sometimes the people you're trying to save are the very ones anchoring you to the bottom. For as long as I could remember, I carried the burden of my family's expectations like a heavy, rusted chain. My father, Arthur, 65, was a man who had been defeated by life long ago, a former factory worker who saw my ambition as a personal insult to his own stagnation. My mother, Martha, 62, was the perpetual victim, always one crisis away from total collapse, leaning on me for emotional and financial support since I was 18. Then there was my younger brother, Caleb, 30, who had mastered the art of being a victim of circumstance, always needing just one more loan to get his life together. I was the one with the vision. I wanted to build a tech-based logistics platform that would revolutionize how small businesses in our dying town moved their goods. I didn't just want money, I wanted to be the engine that pulled the whole family into a new life. But every time I took a step forward, they seemed to find a way to pull me 2 steps back. Every dinner was a lecture on staying in my lane. My father would scoff at my late nights spent coding, calling it playing on the computer, while my mother would weep about a past due utility bill that I was expected to pay with my meager savings. I was trying to build a skyscraper while they were busy using my bricks to patch holes in their sinking ship. The first major life lesson I learned was a painful one. You cannot build a future for people who are obsessed with surviving their past. I was pouring my life force into them, thinking that if I just worked harder, I could carry them all across the finish line. By the time I hit 30, I was exhausted. My startup was a shell, barely alive because I was constantly diverting my focus to handle my family's emergencies. I had a girlfriend at the time, Sarah, 33, who I thought was my partner in this journey. But as the years went on and the breakthrough didn't happen, her patience evaporated. She told me she couldn't live in the waiting room of my life anymore. She saw my family as a black hole and me as the person choosing to jump into it. When she left, it felt like the first major limb being torn off. I expected my family to rally around me, but instead, they saw my heartbreak as a distraction from their needs. Then came the year of the great silence. My startup hit a wall, and I finally had to tell Caleb I couldn't pay his rent. I had to tell my mother I couldn't fund her latest medical emergency that turned out to be a desire for a new living room set. The backlash was instantaneous and brutal. My father called me selfish. My mother stopped calling altogether, opting for guilt trip messages sent through distant relatives. Caleb vanished, claiming I had betrayed the family bond. Within 6 months, the people I had spent a decade trying to save had completely abandoned me because I was no longer useful to them. I was 32, broke, living in a studio apartment with a single light bulb, and for the first time in my life, I was truly alone. The silence was deafening. What would you do if the people you sacrificed everything for walked away the moment you couldn't give them any more? The irony of my life is that the moment the noise of my family stopped, my brain finally started to work. Without the daily calls about Caleb's legal troubles or my mother's imaginary crises, I had something I hadn't possessed in years: clarity. In that cold, quiet apartment, I redesigned the entire core of my platform. I stripped away the features I had added just to make quick money for them and focused on the raw, powerful engine of the idea. I worked with a ferocity that was no longer fueled by the need to be a hero, but by the sheer necessity of survival. Without the emotional drain of their constant judgment, my creativity returned. I found a partner, Marcus, 40, a veteran in the industry who saw my work and didn't see a struggling son, he saw a genius. He invested not just money, but belief. Within 18 months, the platform took off. It didn't just succeed, it exploded. We went from a tiny office to a regional powerhouse. I was no longer Julian the failure, I was Julian the innovator. The money started coming in, not in trickles, but in floods. And that's when the phone started ringing again. The moment my face appeared in the local business journal, the great silence ended. My mother called, her voice trembling with a rehearsed sweetness, acting as if the last 3 years of abandonment had never happened. My father sent a long, rambling email about how he always knew I had it in me, conveniently forgetting the decade of ridicule. Caleb showed up at my office, acting like the proud younger brother, already hinting at a position in the company. I sat in my high-back leather chair, looking at them, and I felt nothing. I realized that my breakthrough hadn't happened despite them giving up on me, it happened because they gave up on me. Their desertion was the greatest gift they ever gave me. It was the only way I could finally stop being a crutch and start being a person. I had spent my life thinking that love meant carrying people who refused to walk. But the truth is, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their own choices so you can finally face the potential of your own. I didn't give Caleb a job. I didn't pay for my mother's luxury vacation. I set up a modest, fixed trust for my parents' basic needs, one they couldn't touch or manipulate, and I walked away from the drama. People look at me now and see a man who has it all, but the path here was paved with the ghosts of the relationships I thought would last forever. I learned that success isn't just about the numbers in your bank account, it's about the quality of the people you allow into your inner circle. I realized that my family didn't hate my failure, they hated my potential because it highlighted their own lack of it. They only loved the version of me that was struggling alongside them. The version of me that succeeded was a stranger to them, a stranger they wanted to exploit. The most profound realization of my journey is this: your breakthrough is often waiting on the other side of your biggest goodbye. I had to lose the people I loved to find the man I was supposed to be. If you achieved the dream of a lifetime, would you share it with the people who abandoned you when you were at your lowest? My journey taught me that you can't buy back the time you lost trying to be a hero for people who didn't want to be saved. I'm Julian, and I finally have the life I dreamed of, but I had to pay for it with the family I thought I knew. I want to know what you think about this. Is a breakthrough worth it if it costs you your entire support system? Let me know your opinion in the comments below. If this story hit home for you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the reality of the hustle.